incoming school closure at the end of the year and more prison discussions must be had, plus a new show coming to KELOLAND Plus. This is Inside the Newsroom, and I'm your host, Maddie Paul. Inside the Newsroom, we bring you the trending stories of the KELOLAND area, and the best part of all, we bring in our newsroom staff members to talk about these stories that they make every day for our newscasts and online on KELOLAND.com. You heard a little bit of tease about what's going to happen on today's show, but I want to get started with a really important Eye on KELOLAND story. For context, a new men's prison has been a big topic of conversation lately, but some say it has disproportionately impacted some members of the community. So in a recent Eye on KELOLAND story, Dan Santella talked to leaders about how they see the disparity when it comes to Native American inmates. And he joins me right now at the digital desk to talk about this very important story. But Dan, I want to give some context for our viewers who may not know what an Eye on KELOLAND story is. So in your opinion, what's the difference between an Eye on KELOLAND story versus something that we see every day on our newscasts?
The first and most direct difference is its length. It's longer. It lasts longer. Visually, it takes longer to read. It will often have more interviews. It will almost always have more work put into it because it's a longer piece and you take more time to set it up.
So
right?
Why did you use your time for this eye to look at who's inside of our South Dakota State Prison? And then why focus on the Native American population?
It was a previous story I had been working on, and I had reached out to Senator Red Dawn Foster of Pine Ridge, of the Oglala Sioux tribe, and I didn't hear back from her. Fine. But later that day, after my story had published, she called me, and we were talking about this whole prison thing. And we talked about just all these different aspects of this discussion and the fact that, you know, we have about 8% of our state is Native as the overall population, but 40% roughly of the state's Department of Corrections inmates are Native. And so I thought this really merits further attention. That is just mathematically a big disparity, right? 8% of the state, but 40% of the population. And I had known this and I heard about it, but I was like, no, this merits more of my attention. And who should be the people I talk to this? Well, Native American leaders, right? So I interviewed Red Dawn Foster. She's a member of the Oglala Sioux tribe. I interviewed Eric Emery, another state lawmaker. He's a member of the Rosebud Sioux tribe. He lives in the town of Rosebud. So they're both in roughly southwestern South Dakota. Then I also interviewed Jay Garrett Renville. He's tribal chairman for the Sisseton-Wahpeton Sioux tribe. I've interviewed him several times. He always gives a great interview. He did once again. And so it was those three people, and it was, you know, there were not a long list of questions I had for them. You know, we know Native Americans are overrepresented amongst the prison population. What do you think about this? Just
left it at that.
What do you think? And they gave great thoughts. And then for the lawmakers, I also asked, you know, because it behooves me to ask, what are you thinking about your upcoming vote on this issue? And Emery said he was leaning towards support, and Foster said she was still doing research. And so that was interesting. And we know this, but it was really sort of highlighted in the piece that when we talk about someone behind bars, obviously what led to that was a conviction. What led to that was an accusation. What led to that was a crime committed. But there's a lot of factors that lead up to that. You know, what might increase the odds of incarceration? Poverty, lack of access to resources, poor workplace development, mental health resources, health care, the infrastructure that so often we take for granted in major metro areas that just isn't in certain parts of South Dakota where there's notable poverty. And it was really interesting. You have all these discussions about incarceration and recidivism and people spending time behind bars, but it's an incomplete discussion unless you're looking at what led to that. That was sort of the story.
Dan, you sound really passionate about this piece. And, you know, now that it's past its publication and it's been out a couple of days, what are you most proud of with this story?
I'm really happy that these individuals did interviews with me, that they wanted to share their thoughts with me. I just really appreciate that they took the time. This is an issue, not only the pending prison vote, but just the whole issue of incarceration. It's not the easiest one. It's not the most, it can be a tough topic, right? But I think we have to talk about it. And we're talking about, this is a $650 million investment of taxpayer funds. And so it behooves us to look at this question with a pretty detailed microscope. And I was happy with how the story turned out. I was happy to identify kind of the big point, and it's right on the screen right now. And I workshopped this title for a while. I reached out to Anna Peters, our executive producer. I said, Anna, what do you think about this title? And she liked it. I was like, okay, I think it's pretty good. Because we have a limit, right, of characters, in our titles for the website. And
right.
We really want to nail that, right? And I had one where I was like, well, what if I said Emery, Foster, Renville look at incarceration? I was like, well, that's true, yes, but is that truly the crux of this issue? I'm just kind of listing who I talked to. That like the crux of the issue was that 8% of the population, 40% of the inmates. So I was happy with how that came to fruition too.
Is that the biggest takeaway that you want viewers to have from the story?
Yes, that. And then also that, before someone is incarcerated, from wherever they come, wherever they have spent time, there are factors and influences that lead them to the point of where they might be charged with a crime. And that has to be understood. And the socioeconomic catalysts or variables influence all that. So as we're looking at incarceration in South Dakota and the possibility of a new prison, looking at all these variables deserves our time.
Dan, thank you so much for talking about this very important story. And we're not done with prison discussions yet right here on Inside the Newsroom. We actually got to speak to former inmates who have advice for lawmakers considering a new prison. We'll hear more about that next on Inside the Newsroom. And welcome back to Inside the Newsroom. South Dakota lawmakers will gather in the state capitol next week to decide the fate of a new men's prison in northeast Sioux Falls. And 2 Sioux Falls men will be watching closely. Tom Hansen has more.
Stephen Harrison and Ryan Vandenhoek know all about prison life because they've lived it. Both committed crimes as teenagers and ended up serving time at the state penitentiary, or what they call the Hill. Harrison says lawmakers should understand that there is a potential for positive change behind bars. He was first incarcerated in 2002.
Throughout that time, there was a growth process, a maturity, a radical change in my heart that had taken place all within the span of that time, to where now today I could live the life that I live.
Harrison says he matured and found purpose thanks to prison programs involving faith leaders. Vandenhoek says he was also able to find positive role models.
I went into prison when I was 16 years old, so I was still living at home. And now living then a life devoid of the presence of my father. Older men who became mentors, not by name necessarily, but certainly they took on that mentorship role. They became father figures in my life. Showed me the right way to be mature, how to behave, how to act around others, how to do things the right way.
Both men say whether it's vocational training, rehab, mentorship, or faith-based programs, lawmakers need to give inmates the tools to succeed outside the prison walls.
All these things that should be made available to facilitate the meaningful change that these men and women have to have in their lives. I think the foundation for that has to be, am I making the right decisions on what's going to be the best for these men and women?
And Tom joins us now at the digital desk to talk more about this story. Tom, it's good to see you here. I know it's been a while since you've been at the digital desk, first of all.
Good to be back, Maddie.
I'm so glad. But Tom, what a story. You really had a unique perspective talking to Stephen and Ryan as they were giving their own story, as we're sharing details of developing stories around this proposed prison plan. So in your opinion, what is the importance of hearing their perspectives, especially now?
How often do we get to hear from prisoners or former inmates? I think I was just glued to what they were saying because it's a perspective that we never hear, right? Mm-hmm. Inmates don't usually talk about something like this. And so these are 2 guys who've obviously turned their lives around.
Yes.
And are doing well. And they wanted to make it clear to lawmakers that there are examples right there of programs that do work. Of course, that will not work for all prisoners, right? Some people it's just not going to work. But these are two guys that showed that if you give them some rehab programs and help them grow and mature inside prison, they can turn their lives around.
Is that what stood out to you the most, Tom? Or what did you really take away personally from your interviews?
I think I was shocked that both of these guys went into prison when they were teenagers. Yeah. To me, that was a wow. Your brain isn't fully developed when you're a teenager, and so they got into prison and found the right people talking to them in prison.
And you're right, they turned it around completely. And one thing that stood out to me with this story, Tom, other than their incredible story, is you barely speak in it. You really don't. You give a lot of time to them to share what they need to say. So why did you let them do that?
Very astute, because when I was putting this piece together, Ryan was speaking. And usually you try and limit the amount of time that you let someone speak because our attention spans just aren't there. But he has what we call a soundbite that runs about 30 seconds, and that's not something we normally do. But what he was saying was so important, I thought, and it all went together, and I didn't want to break that up. And so I did a little something different for that story. I let that run, let that breathe, let Ryan get his point across, because I thought it was just important for that story.
And Stephen and Ryan will also appear on Inside KELOLAND this weekend too, right? So what can viewers expect from this conversation that will be much longer?
Yeah, it will be much longer. In fact, the producer came back and said, I just let them go because they were so interesting.
Wow.
So their segment is probably twice as long as a normal segment, and that just doesn't happen very often. But the producer cut some other stuff out and made time for them, just because what they had to say was so interesting. And so interesting as lawmakers gather on Tuesday to decide what to do about a prison.
Right. All of this developing pieces coming together. But Tom, is there anything that you'd like our viewers to know about this story? Is there something that we didn't get to that you'd like to share?
No, I think the point that they really wanted to make was make sure that you put some money into the rehab programs, and that was the point they wanted to make. I also think that, maybe they would be amenable to lawmakers reaching out and having a conversation too.
Tom, thank you so much for sharing all these details right here. It's good to have you back at the digital desk.
Thank you, Maddie.
Good. Thank you, Tom. And stick around, viewers. We're still going to be talking about some trending stories in our area. Coming up next, Christ the King Elementary will close in 2026. That's the plan. We're going to speak to one of our reporters next on Inside the Newsroom. And welcome back to Inside the Newsroom. The Bishop O'Gorman Catholic School System is shutting down one of its existing elementaries at the end of the school year. Carly Phillips has details and reactions.
Parents say they're heartbroken to hear that Christ the King Elementary won't reopen its doors next fall to students.
It's a shame that it's going away. I have a lot of memories.
In a letter to parents, Bishop O'Gorman Catholic Schools President Kyle Gross states enrollment at Christ the King has remained relatively flat for nearly 2 decades. He adds that consolidation will help staff better manage operating costs in the future. Parent Erin Eckrich says her family has a long history of attending this Catholic school. Her son attends preschool there now. She says she received an email on Monday from school officials about an upcoming meeting regarding the future of Christ the King Elementary.
I had inklings when I dropped my kids off with my parents on Wednesday to go to this meeting that this announcement was going to be made.
She says she wishes parents were informed of the upcoming closure sooner.
Why was it never brought to the attention to people that could actually help and would be so willing to help, because this education of their children at Christ the King was so important to them.
In a statement to KELOLAND News, officials say the school system has capacity for current and future preschool and elementary students across the 5 remaining elementary schools. The decision was made to position the Catholic school system for long-term growth.
And Carly Phillips joins us now at the digital desk to talk more about this story. Because, Carly, I kind of want to hear what your day looked like yesterday as you were putting this story together. What goes into confirming a closure like this or finding people that you wanted to talk to?
Yeah, so obviously with this, the first thing that we wanted to do was get confirmation from the school system officials, and that was one of the most important things to starting this. Is we needed that confirmation. We either needed to get the letter or a statement from someone official. So for the first good part of my day, it was a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails getting sent out to a lot of different people to get that, which eventually we did. But a lot of my morning was looking around, figuring out how to get confirmation and get in contact with the right people.
Sounds busy. And then how did you find a parent to talk to?
Yeah, it was a mixture of messaging parents on Facebook that maybe had posted something about it, or other people calling the station and just seeing if they would be open to talking about this. And we actually got an email from the parent I talked to yesterday, reached out to us that she would be willing to talk.
What was your goal for shaping a story like this? Is it to be informative? Is it to show a community impact? What do you think the goal of this story was?
I think a little bit of both of what you just said. Obviously, talking about this is what's happening and what's going on, and this is the impact that, in this case, parents and students are going to be seeing from this and how they feel. I think that's what people are most interested in, and that's what kind of makes that story the bulk of that story.
And is this chapter closed for you and your coverage, or are we expecting to hear more?
Yeah, we'll have more reaction in my story tonight that'll air on KELOLAND News and then also be online as well. So more reaction coming from parents about the closure.
Carly, is there anything else that you'd like to say about this first story that you were able to publish about Christ the King closing?
I think we covered it pretty good. So.
I think we did. Thank you, Carly, for everything and all those details. And everyone stick around, because up next on Inside the Newsroom, I have important news. I'm going to be a part of a new show. It's something that you've seen before on our weekend newscasts, and we're adding a co-host into the show that is very familiar for you. So stick around. Learn more about this new KELOLAND Plus show when we come back after the break. And welcome back to Inside the Newsroom. I am just so excited, joined by Perry Groten right now, because him and we're about to become best friends for a long time, because we're bringing you a new show here on KELOLAND Plus every Friday and Saturday, and it is called Boredom Busters. Yay! I need a sound effect of like applause.
Yeah, can we get a little sound effects for this?
Celebrations and things like that. I know Scott Munt has a big boo, but this is not the time for booing.
This is unless we want to do it, call it boredom boost.
Boredom boosters. That could be our Halloween episode. How about something like that? No, boredom busters. It's something that we're bringing to KELOLAND Plus in a longer format, because Perry, it's just so popular over the weekends, right?
Yeah, I mean it's been a staple of the Saturday morning and Sunday morning shows for literally decades. It started back in the early 1990s, and it's always been popular. I've had people tell me sometimes they've missed Boredom Busters and what's going on, and they want to know what's happening over the weekend and that kind of thing. But whole idea is just kind of when families are busy during the course of the week, and then all of a sudden they wake up on a Saturday morning and the weekend's here. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
Well, just consult Boredom Busters and we got you all set.
But, Boredom Busters over the weekends will still continue. Perry will still be making his list and reading off of it during the newscast. But now every Friday and Saturday, you can be hearing from community leaders in our community or across the KELOLAND area with Perry and myself as we just discuss what weekend events are going on. And then Perry will still be reading that iconic list. Iconic. We got to say it like that, right, Perry?
And it will be posted on KELOLAND.com as well.
Exactly. And I want to give you all a little tease about what you can see tonight at 5:30 when you watch Boredom Busters. So take a look.
And you were a regular attendee of Riverfest in the past, but now you're kind of one of the organizers. What's the difference?
Well, I mean, we'll still have fun. It'll just be working fun, right? We have all 4 of our downtown breweries that will be down selling their own beer, Plus, they have collaborated on a Riverfest beer called Sound Waves this year. I haven't tried it, but I hear it tastes like orange juice a little bit, you guys. So I highly recommend it.
Oh, I got to start off by asking right away, what are you wearing right now?
You know,
I've got
my SuperCon shirt on. I've got a little SuperCon jersey I had made up. Something to stand out so that people can find me when they need me. So, and then all of our panels throughout the weekend that are free throughout the day for all attendees.
Free. Wait, my favorite word.
Yep, absolutely.
My favorite word.
It's included with your regular guest pass. We've got some people selling lightsabers over the weekend too, so you could come on down and pick one up for yourself.
Surprised you don't have one already, Maddie.
Not yet.
Yep.
So that's a little peek about what you can see tonight on Boredom Busters. Perry, look. You will watch Boredom Busters tonight, using the Force on you. You will watch Boredom Busters tonight and on Saturdays.
Yeah. Lightsabers and beer that tastes like orange juice. I mean, you can't beat that for a weekend, right?
Perry's sold. He'll be back for Boredom Busters all the time now. So whether you're looking for food, family-friendly fun, or a way to give back, Boredom Busters shows you all those weekend events and activities that bring neighbors together. So again, you'll hear from business owners, community leaders, and supporters, as well as some KELOLAND reporters and meteorologists to give you a little preview of what's going on over the weekend. So make sure you join Perry Groten and myself every Friday at 5:30 at night and Saturday at 8 in the morning, only on KELOLAND Plus for new episodes of Boredom Busters. But again, Perry will read that iconic list still on Saturdays and Sundays, that Boredom Busters.
I'm working on it right now.
Tip-tap it away. Tip-tap it
right.
away.
That's
Anything
right.
else you want people to know about the new Boredom Busters show, Perry? You're excited, right? Come on.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
going to show a little enthusiasm?
Very excited. and again, we got your weekend covered. Just make sure you check us out.
I love it. Perry, thank you so much for being here to celebrate Boredom Busters. And everyone, thank you for watching Inside the Newsroom today. That's all the trending stories that we have before you go into your weekend. Make sure you watch Boredom Busters. Again, that airs tonight at 5:30 and every Friday at 5:30. And then again on Saturdays at 8 in the morning, only here on KELOLAND Plus. Until then, have a great day, everyone.